Should Auckland mayoral candidate Viv Beck be applauded or condemned for pulling out of the election? Bridget Morton addresses that question in her latest MBR column, and she joins me now. Now, reading the column, it seemed as though you were thinking she'd made a big mistake, and then you kind of almost end up by saying, well, good on her for having put her hat in the ring for the start anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a bit of a journey. But absolutely, in the beginning, and I think the initial reaction is, well, if you weren't going to go through with it, why did you sort of waste the resources? And particularly the timing. You know, she did withdraw her nomination or her bid on the day that postal ballots went out. That means that they've still got her name on them. People can still vote for her. And there may be some people that are not aware that she's pulled out. So, you know, they waste their vote. So I think, you know, there's part of that initial reaction and like, well, why didn't you sort of do this earlier? You know, kind of get it together earlier. But when you look at the big scheme of things, it's not really costing that many people. Probably not that many people will waste their votes. And I think also, you know, we want to actually get more people and more highly qualified people running for local government. So we probably need to have a bit of leniency.
But the argument she's using, you know, about a concern about splitting the centre-right vote, I mean, you know, that was clear from the start, wasn't it? I mean, why has it taken so long to work that one out?
Well, I think that's part of the sort of the question around it. Obviously, there were multiple right or centre-right candidates putting their hand up, but they all thought they were the one that was going to, you know, come out on top. Very clear that she had seen the polling, perhaps she'd had her own done as well, and realised that she had no chance of winning. Therefore, it was better for her to pull out rather than get blamed later on for causing the right vote to split.
What happens, though, if you do end up seeing a reasonably substantial vote go her way because her name is still on the ballot paper?
Well, I mean, it just disappears. You know, for the mayoralty in Auckland, you know, you get one tick. It's not a preferential system. So that does mean that anyone votes for her, basically that ballot paper is wasted.
Yeah. Although theoretically, I know, not like she could win the mayoralty. What does she do then?
Well, I think she'd be happy to take it because I don't think her reason was that she didn't want the mayoralty. It was just that she couldn't win the mayoralty.
Yeah. Now, you also comment on Labour's Rongotai MP Paul Eagle, who's standing here in Wellington for the Wellington mayoralty. I mean, what are the questions about his involvement?
Well, see, that's where it's a little bit different, I think, to the Viv Beck situation. Clearly, he's got a job. He holds office here as an MP. So he's taken leave from that, as I understand, to run for the mayoralty. But they estimate the cost of a by-election in Rongotai, the electorate he holds, to be at $1.2 million. Now, that seems particularly a waste of money if he wins because there's not that much time to go until the next general election. Basically, it's sort of about a year. And we also know that it's probably going to be held by Labour, so it's probably going to be a Labour candidate. So really, 1.2 million down the drain. Additionally, there's also some questions about whether or not he could have been more upfront earlier on when he was running for the Rongotai seat, about whether or not he would go back and put his hand back up for council.
I mean, in terms of that, though, isn't it clear that he hasn't actually been, if you like, a great Rongotai MP? It hasn't really worked out from here, therefore he's going back to the politics he knows best.
Well, yes, I think that's true. I think he was a very popular councillor and he is well known in Wellington because of that. I think absolutely he hasn't probably achieved what he wanted to do within this building, within Parliament. A lot to do with, you know, what his role has been in caucus, but that's obviously making that judgment between what is his personal career progression and what is best for, say, Wellington or the sort of wider country in terms of that additional cost.
But coming back to the by-election, I mean, the easy way around this, isn't it, is for him to hang on for an MP sort of into next year, 3 or 4 months into next year, within the 6-month period of a general election, then stand down, no by-election, just a new candidate for the general election.
Yeah, so technically easy, but also then once again he's going to get double pay, isn't he? And he's clearly not going to be, you know, voting here. There's a question, of course, the fact that, you know, Labour doesn't need his vote. They've got a strong majority. One vote's not going to make a difference in terms of whether or not he actually is on precedent, actually is voting. So I think there's probably part of that, but I don't think the electorate would respond well to someone getting a mayoral salary and an MP salary.
I suppose his way around would be if he wanted to, would be to donate that to some worthy charity. Would that appease public concern?
I think it absolutely would. For many people, it would appease that and avoid that sort of 1.2 million cost of a by-election. But it does appear that he has sort of already made a promise that he will resign straight away in that by-election. I mean, obviously the key thing is also knowing actually when the election will be held. We normally, in the last few rounds, the Prime Minister has announced that in January, February, told us when the election's going to be, but that's not guaranteed. So he would be kind of hanging on the basis that they would be making a call pretty soon so that he could actually put that time frame in place.
I mean, back to the local body elections, I mean, do you get a sense that there is quite a lot of interest in these elections, more than previous, or is it like usual you'd expect just a 40% plus turnout?
Well, I think there's probably not going to be a significant increase in turnout, but there is some big issues that people are really passionate about. Three Waters being one of them, the intensification plans being another. Ironically, both of those are actually much more caught up in central government. Local government has limited ability to actually affect those and what actually happens there, although a lot are making promises that they can actually affect that. So I think whilst there's a lot of probably noise around this, and there has been a lot of noise, I think, the Auckland Mayoralty and the Wellington Mayoralty campaigns have had a lot of attention, I think. I don't know whether that's going to translate into turnout, because I still think people have a low engagement or low distrust in councils to actually deliver, regardless who is actually in the seat.
Bridget Morton, thank you for your time.